To settle down. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Can I hear from all of you? Good evening, everyone. That's fantastic. Let's keep some energy. Yes? Let's keep the energy high. We are here for something really important. But before we proceed, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to take a moment to look around this room. And you will find diplomats, technologists, journalists, investors, policymakers, and builders, people who write about the future and people who are actively building it. That this room exists tells us something important. Beyond the Hype has already achieved something even before a single page is publicly discussed. It has brought the right people together for the right conversation. Welcome to the Royal Opera House, Mumbai. Welcome to what promises to be one of the most meaningful conversations on AI in this city this year. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mayuri Malinkar and it's my privilege to guide you through this evening. We are living through one of the most important technological transitions in human history. Artificial intelligence is no longer limited to research labs or science fiction. It is changing industries, reshaping geopolitics, and redefining the relationship between citizens and institutions. Yet, the public conversation around AI has often been too simplistic. On one side, there is optimism, promises of speed, scale, and transformation. And on the other hand, there is fear, concerns about displacement, surveillance, and loss of control. What is often missing is nuance, the willingness to engage with complexity, to recognize that this is not a story of heroes or villains, but a story of choices, systems, and consequences. That is exactly what Mr. Sundeep Waslekar has written. Ladies and gentlemen, Beyond the Hype, Many Realities of AI is not a book about what AI will do to us. It is a book about what we will choose to do with it, ladies and gentlemen, and what we need to understand before making that choice. Mr. Waslekar is the president of the Strategic Foresight Group, an institution that has shaped peace processes, water dialogue, and development thinking across more than 50 countries. He is a strategist who studies systems, traces consequences, and asks the question many disruption era conversations avoid: what happens next? That clarity and his refusal to be carried away either by promise or panic is what makes this book so relevant and this evening so important. Tonight has been made possible through a meaningful collaboration between AP Global, Sakar Media Group, and the Consulate General of Switzerland in Mumbai. Institutions that understand the importance of public conversation need thoughtful platforms and credible partnerships. We are also honored to have with us a special guest, ladies and gentlemen, this evening, who will be joining us online shortly and is one of the earliest investors in AI and AI safety. A philosopher and a first mover, we will be hearing from him later in this evening. But for now, it's time to begin with our first keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, a man whose career has been closely tied to statecraft, strategy, and national security. Ambassador Pankaj Saran is Deputy National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister of India, placing him at the heart of India's global engagement during critical moment. He brings to this discussion exactly what it requires: a perspective that is internationally in scope and grounded in the real-world consequences. This finest strategic mind is not simply those who predict the future, but those who understand clearly the forces shaping the present. Ambassador Saran is one such voice. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to invite him on the stage, requesting all of you to please put your hands together for Ambassador Pankaj Saral. Come on, everybody. So before we hear from him, I would like to invite on the stage our editor, Mr. Rahul Gadpai, to kindly join us on the stage and felicitate him. Very, very warm welcome to you, sir. Over to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to be back in Mumbai, a city I grew up in as a young schoolboy. Artificial intelligence was something which we hadn't even dreamt of at that time, and I'm talking about 50 years ago. So it's a great pleasure to be back in this magnificent venue. Thank you so much. Sundeep Waslekar is a recent friend of mine of the last, I would say, 10 years. And someone who I have begun to be very fond of, someone who I relate to in terms of his views, in terms of his scholarship, and in terms of what he has done for intellectual pursuit of international relations and all the difficult and dirty problems that the world faces today. So wherever there is a problem, you find Sundeep Waslekar present, trying to unpack it and trying to find solutions. It takes a very brave man to be at the battlefront, and he is one of them. So thank you, Sundeep, and it's a great privilege and honor for me to be present at the launch of his book, Beyond the Hype. I also want to thank the Sakal Media Group and AP Global for arranging this and for inviting me to this event, and to all the distinguished dignitaries, the diplomats, the members of the Mumbai intelligentsia. Thank you so much. What I wanted to say and use this occasion is to make a few points. Firstly, I think what Sundeep has done in this book is to give us a reality check. The conventional wisdom and the euphoria about AI so far has been the good it brings to humanity. What Sundeep has done is to tell us, hold on, there is another dimension to AI, and let us focus on that. And I think that's very, very important. In fact, a few months ago, his organization and mine, we had done a joint report on AI, which we released in New Delhi, to bring out the other side of AI, the other dimension of AI, and this is what I think is the purpose of today's discussion. He has done a great job in breaking down the whole universe of artificial intelligence. So at one level, whenever humanity accidentally or otherwise comes across a new technology or stumbles upon a new technology, it takes some time for human beings to assimilate and to absorb the implications of that technology. And then once they absorb what that technology means, then they try to come to grips with its implications and what it can do for their own lives. So if you look at the whole history of human evolution, starting from, let's say, the invention of the fire or the electric engine, or even agricultural machines or mechanical power, right up to the invention of nuclear science and nuclear energy, to the internet, each of these have been disruptive technologies. So the questions which we can ask ourselves legitimately is this different from the past? and how different is it? And of course, the second thing is it all for the good, or are there dangers and risks inherent in this new technology? This technology or this invention which we are going through as we speak is different because it is general in nature. It's not specific, but it is in that sense all-encompassing, and it therefore impacts every aspect of our life. It's important. Now, I know that the Consul General of Switzerland is here, and Switzerland will be hosting later this year the Swiss AI Summit, and next year Switzerland is also going to be hosting the Global AI Summit. And India was the host earlier this year in New Delhi. So what are all these summits for? I mean, what is the objective? Why are they being held? I think the primary reason for convening these summits at the level of countries and leaders is to try and get your head around the implications of AI and try to move towards some kind of an international consensus or a framework to deal with AI. I'm not using the word govern AI internationally because that's a strong word to use, because there are people in the AI universe who would not accept the fact that you need to govern artificial intelligence. But nevertheless, leaders feel that there is a need, and in fact, the theme for India's AI summit earlier this year was actually people, progress, and the planet. And every AI summit has created and has focused on some dimension of AI, some focus on the ethics of AI, some focus on the safety aspects, some focus on the governance aspects. So every iteration of the last few years, starting from Bletchley in the UK, has contributed to this debate. But what Sundeep is trying to say is, in his book, that there is no current international framework to handle the consequences of artificial intelligence. And I will just like to focus on the downsides of AI, because on the upside, we know what AI can do and what its potential is. But it's the problem which is not spoken of, which is the real problem. And in our euphoria, we are ignoring some of the downsides. I'll just like to quote a paragraph from Sundeep's book, which is very eloquent in terms of putting out the proposition. And he says as follows: whether it is pretending to be blind, blackmailing engineers, playing dead, or secretly replicating, these AIs demonstrate that they can be smarter than the human engineers who created them. Fortunately, all these incidents which he has spoken of took place under the supervision of scientists. Imagine if AI can replicate itself, cheat the people who created it in the open, and created thousands of clones in your own office. This is a sample of what he is trying to suggest. But he goes further, and he says, artificial intelligence is crossing a threshold. It is no longer confined to automating routine tasks or augmenting human decision-making. It is beginning to participate in the creation of knowledge itself. And in doing so, it is transforming not just how we work, but how humanity learns, innovates, and evolves. So the proposition which he's made is that we are at the cusp of a fundamental change in the way humanity is going to function. And because of this reality, it is a reality, artificial intelligence has now become a powerful tool in the geopolitics of the world. It has become a powerful determinant of national power. It has become a determinant of who and which group of countries are going to be the new post-colonial guardians of the global order. So that is the second very serious aspect of the downsides of artificial intelligence. Because if you catalog what artificial intelligence can do for you in terms of harm to humanity, it is, as he said, runaway algorithms, deception, artificial general intelligence, replication, the use of AI by terrorists, for nuclear war. Imagine if you have a trigger which is beyond human control, so that the final button that you press is not controlled anymore by human beings. For use in chemical and biological warfare. In other words, we are at the cusp of a new battlefield. And that battlefield is something we have to deal with, and we have to ask ourselves, what do we do? How do we regulate? In the old wars, we had international humanitarian law. We had a whole body of law to govern when man fights man. But what happens when man fights machine? Or when man does not even know who he's fighting? So the new actors on this battlefield have become algorithms. The raw material has become data. The actors have become talent. And all of this is subsumed or is encompassed by ideology. So the technology is not value neutral, it is not ideology neutral. What do we do? That is the question when we look at the risks inherent in artificial intelligence. We have to address and make guardrails for the technology and see whether there is such a thing possible. We have recently all read in the newspapers the example with Anthropic and Mythos, and how they have been able to enter systems, take control of systems, and then go well beyond human control. So are we galloping towards a situation where we lose control of what we create? That is really the issue which we face. Now, it's okay if you do it for good purposes, if you do it for agriculture, for medicine, for health, for education. But we know, history has taught us that any new technology that is developed cannot be limited only to good use. There are bad people in the world. They will use this technology for bad purposes. And obviously, there are three domains which stand witness to this. One is clearly the nuclear domain, the other is the cyber domain, and the third is the space domain. So in all of these, and you've seen the movie Oppenheimer, so when nuclear energy and nuclear science and the fusion and the fission was created, there was a certain purpose behind it. But today, the world is caught in a situation where we have nuclear powers, we have nuclear bombs, we have nuclear weapons. So one of the solutions which Sundeep has discussed in the book is, do we have to have an international organization such as the International Atomic Energy Agency to administer this new technology of AI? But the other problem, apart from the risks, the technical, technological risks inherent in AI, is what it is going to do for relationships between man and country and country. The way I see it, I think the distance between the haves and the have-nots is going to grow. We are heading into a new kind of a world in which the power that comes from AI is going to be increasingly concentrated in a very few number of countries, and the vast majority of the nations are simply going to be, let us say, condemned to live with what this small club of countries is going to create and control. But the problem is even more serious, that in this case, it is not just nations or governments that are controlling. It is the big tech, it is the supranational actors, it is the non-state actors, it is a few individuals whose market valuation and capitalization today are equivalent to the GDP of many countries of the world. Who controls these non-state actors? How do we discipline them? How do we bring them into the room in terms of governance? So we have a unique problem this time around where the technology actually rests in private corporations. And those private corporations are multinational. They're bigger than most countries, and they seem to be, as of today, beyond the pale of any control. So you have two impulses at play. One is concentration among states, nations, governments, and concentration among a few sets of private corporations. And because AI is the kind of powerful technology that it is, the two largest and the most powerful nations on earth, the United States and China, are racing ahead as if there was no tomorrow in developing all the attributes that go into AI capability, because they have understood and calculated that global domination of what we think, how we act, how we behave, how we economically succeed is resting in this. This is the new internet. So we have an unfortunate situation where we are entering into a new race between these two competing powers for global supremacy and global domination. So lastly, the question arises then, as for India, where do we figure in this rather bleak image and picture of the reality? India has strengths. We have our own strengths, but we have also weaknesses. We have not yet reached where we would like to be at present. We have enacted domestic legislation. We have tried to put guardrails, but there are no easy answers. At one level, India has to adopt artificial intelligence. We have to start teaching our kids from primary school, from secondary school about artificial intelligence. We have to harness that technology, which we have done in the past. I mean, we did it during the Y2K, we did it during the digitization era. So we are not new to this game, and we are pretty good at it, because we have today become, in fact, in many ways, the services capital of the world. But yet we know that we have to do a real catch-up and do it very fast. So we are working on all fronts. But at the moment, our focus, and it seems of the government, is to just harness the technology. The focus, and I don't want to go through all the initiatives taken, but the fact is that on all the 5 layers of the AI which the NVIDIA chief actually described of AI, energy, chips, data, models, and use cases. On all of these, the Indian government is taking a lot of action, but no one is talking about the military and the security dimensions of the same technology. And this is where I think Sundeep's book becomes very, very critical and useful. It's getting drowned in the voice and in the euphoria, but I think this kind of a meeting and this kind of a discussion should throw up the risks of this technology. And having served in the national security apparatus, I know that a lot of people in our country are keeping awake, trying to figure out how do we firstly protect ourselves, including the financial sector, Bombay Stock Exchange, power grids. There's so many things. So how do we protect ourselves? But then when you are confronted with adversaries, with enemies, you also need to go beyond protection. You need to also have a more forward-looking approach and a policy to promote your national security interests. The task is not easy, but the starting point has to be that while we are celebrating the benefits of AI, we should never ever lose sight. We should never lose sight of an Oppenheimer moment when it comes to artificial intelligence, and we should have more people talking about it, writing about it, not to scare ourselves, but just to be mature, alert, because this is the new world we are entering. So with these words, I have great pleasure in coming to this occasion, talking to all of you, and congratulating Sundeep for an absolutely most timely and relevant contribution to the debate. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Saran, for that thoughtful and deeply relevant keynote. The question of how nations and institutions respond to the age of AI is the center of this book, and you have set the tone for that discussion powerfully. Thanks a lot. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our next speaker. Our next keynote this evening comes from a representative of a country long associated with diplomacy, innovation, and global cooperation. Switzerland is a home to CERN and the World Economic Forum and many of the world's most respected multilateral institutions. It has long understood that one of the most important forums of global leadership is the ability to convene, to bring people together and to create space for meaningful dialogue. That Switzerland is a part of this evening's conversation is both fitting and significant. Ambassador Maya had been scheduled to join us this evening, and we look forward to welcoming her on a future occasions. In her state, it is my pleasure to invite the Consul General of Switzerland in Mumbai, Mr. Martin Mayer, to share a few words with all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I welcome him on the stage, and I will request Mr. Nilesh Khare to please join us on the stage to felicitate him. Mr. Martin, is he around? Okay. A big round of applause, everybody. The Consul General of Switzerland in Mumbai, Mr. Martin Mayer. Warm welcome to you, sir. Thanks for joining. We would like to present one more token of appreciation for your presence. Thank you. Over to you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and a genuine pleasure to join you today for the launch of Beyond the Hype, Many Realities of AI, authored by Dr. Sundeep Waslekar and published by Sakal Publications. As Ambassador Tisafi had to travel to Switzerland on a short notice for an unavoidable obligation, I must excuse her and thank you for your understanding. Allow me first to congratulate Sundeep Waslekar on this remarkable achievement, and to extend my appreciation to Mr. Prataprao Pawar, Chairman, and Ms. Janhavi Pawar, Director of the Sakal Media Group, for bringing this important work to readers in India and around the world. Books have always occupied a special place in diplomacy. Treaties may shape relations between states, and technology may transform our societies. But books shape the way we think. They encourage us to question assumptions, they look beyond headlines, and to understand the complexity behind events that often appear deceptively simple. Artificial intelligence is perhaps the defining technology revolution of our generation. It dominates public debate. It inspires extraordinary optimism, but also understandable concern. It promises to transfer economies, healthcare, education, agriculture, and scientific research, while at the same time raising profound ethical, political, and security questions. In such an environment, thoughtful reflection becomes indispensable. The very title of Dr. Waslekar's book captures this need perfectly. We are invited to move beyond the hype, beyond exaggeration, expectations, and simplistic fears, to understand the many realities of artificial intelligence. This is precisely the type of conversation that policymakers, scientists, business leaders, and citizens need today. What makes this work particularly valuable is that it does not approach AI from only one perspective. Rather, it recognizes that artificial intelligence is simultaneously a technological, economic, social, ethical, and geopolitical phenomenon. These dimensions are deeply interconnected, and none can be understood in isolation. Dr. Waslekar brings to this discussion decades of experience in international affairs, conflict prevention, and strategic dialogue. His conclusions are not purely theoretical. They are informed by extensive conversations with leading scientists, policymakers, and practitioners from around the world. This gives the book a depth and credibility that is particularly valuable at a time when AI discussions are often dominated either by technical specialists or by sensational headlines. I am especially pleased that one of the inspirations behind this publication emerged from a 3-year Track 2 diplomatic process held in Geneva. Between 2022 and 2024, the Geneva Center for Security Policy and the Strategic Foresight Group convened experts from the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council to explore pathways for reducing nuclear risks. As the discussions evolved, it became increasingly evident that artificial intelligence would play an important role in strategic stability and international security. The dialogue therefore expanded to examine the implications of AI for the nuclear domain, leading to a series of important conclusions that were published as a technical paper in February 2025. This illustrates an important reality. Artificial intelligence is no longer simply a matter of innovation policy. It has become a central issue of international peace, security, and global governance. Switzerland has long believed that dialogue across borders and disciplines is essential when addressing complex global challenges. Geneva has earned its reputation as a city where governments, international organizations, academia, civil society, and the private sector come together to build solutions that no single actor could achieve alone. The spirit of dialogue is reflected throughout Dr. Waslekar's work. Ladies and gentlemen, Switzerland is particularly pleased to carry forward the baton of international AI diplomacy from India. Earlier this year, India successfully hosted the Global AI Summit, bringing together governments, innovators, and experts from across the world. It demonstrated India's growing leadership in shaping the international conversation on artificial intelligence. In 2027, Switzerland will have the privilege of hosting the next Global AI Summit in Geneva, and preparations have already begun. The Swiss federal government has initiated an extensive process of consultation involving representatives from industry, academia, scientific institutions, and civil society. We believe that the governance of artificial intelligence cannot be designed by governments alone. It requires contributions from researchers who develop these technologies, entrepreneurs who deploy them, ethicists who examine their societal implications, and citizens whose lives will ultimately be affected by them. Our objective, therefore, is to ensure that the Geneva Summit reflects an inclusive process, one that builds on the momentum generated by India while creating new opportunities for international cooperation. This continuity between India and Switzerland is highly symbolic. Both our countries have long traditions of innovation, education, and democratic dialogue. While our economies differ in size and scale, we share a common belief that technology should serve humanity rather than the other way around. This shared philosophy provides a strong foundation for future collaboration. The global conversation on artificial intelligence increasingly demonstrates that AI is not a single technology with a single purpose. Rather, it represents a family of rapidly evolving capabilities whose impact depends entirely on how they are developed, governed, and applied. When used responsibly, artificial intelligence can become an unprecedented instrument of social and economic transformation. India offers many inspiring examples. Across the country, AI is helping farmers improve agricultural productivity, optimize irrigation, forecast weather patterns, and better understand soil conditions. These innovations are directly improving livelihoods and strengthening food security. In this regard, I would like to acknowledge the work of Mr. Prataprao Pawar, chairman of the Sakal Media Group, whose efforts in developing local AI models for climate and soil forecasting illustrate how technological innovation can directly address practical societal challenges. Such initiatives remind us that artificial intelligence is not only about sophisticated algorithms or powerful computing systems. Ultimately, it's about improving people's lives. And that, perhaps, should remain our principal measure of success. Ladies and gentlemen, the remarkable potential of artificial intelligence extends well beyond agriculture. Across the world, AI is accelerating scientific discovery at a pace that would have been unimaginable only a few years ago. Researchers are solving problems in months that once required many years of painstaking work. Scientists are uncovering new material, analyzing vast quantities of data, and developing solutions to some of humanity's most pressing challenges with unprecedented speed. Perhaps nowhere is this transformation more visible than in the field of medicine. Artificial intelligence is fundamentally changing the way we diagnose. We diagnose disease, discover new medicines, and develop personalized treatments. By analyzing enormous data sets, identifying patterns invisible to the human eye, and modeling complex biological systems, AI is opening entirely new frontiers in healthcare. Switzerland is proud to contribute to this global effort. Swiss universities, research institutes, and innovative companies have established themselves among the world's leading centers of excellence in life sciences and biotechnology. Our country's long-standing strength in scientific research have naturally positioned us at the forefront of responsible AI innovation. One example is Bindcraft, an advanced AI-driven platform that significantly accelerates protein engineering and drug discovery. By enabling researchers to design proteins with greater precision and speed, tools such as Bindcraft have the potential to shorten the journey from scientific discovery to life-saving treatments. What once required years of experimentation can increasingly be accomplished in a fraction of the time. Beyond large research institutions, Switzerland is also home to a vibrant ecosystem of innovative startups that are applying artificial intelligence to medical diagnostics. These companies are developing systems capable of identifying diseases more rapidly and, in many cases, with remarkable accuracy. By assisting physicians rather than replacing them, these technologies promise earlier diagnosis, more personalized care, and better health outcomes for patients around the world. Geneva, in particular, has emerged as an important center for scientific innovation. Among the exciting developments taking place there are pioneering efforts in the field of brain-computer interfaces. These technologies, once considered the domain of science fiction, are becoming increasingly sophisticated. They hold tremendous promise for restoring mobility and communication to patients affected by neurological disorders, while simultaneously raising profound ethical and governance questions that require thoughtful international discussions. This is precisely why institutions such as the Geneva Science and Diplomacy Anticipator, or GESTA, are so important. GESTA occupies a unique position at the intersection of science, diplomacy, and international cooperation. Its mission is not merely to observe scientific progress, but to anticipate future technological breakthroughs and to facilitate dialogue between scientists, policymakers, industry, and civil society before these innovations create governance challenges. This anticipatory approach represents one of Geneva's distinctive contributions to international cooperation. It reminds us that diplomacy today can no longer react only after technological revolutions have occurred. Instead, diplomacy itself must become more forward-looking, more scientific, and more inclusive. Yet, while we celebrate these extraordinary advances, we must also recognize that technology itself is neither inherently good nor inherently bad. Artificial intelligence is ultimately just a tool. Its impact depends upon the choices made by those who design it, regulate it, and use it. History teaches us that every transformation technology has brought both remarkable opportunities and significant risks. Electricity transformed modern civilization, yet it also powered destructive weapons. Nuclear technology provides clean energy for millions of people, while simultaneously presenting profound security challenges. Biotechnology has revolutionized medicine, yet requires strict safeguards against misuse. Artificial intelligence is no different. As AI becomes increasingly capable, increasingly autonomous, and increasingly integrated into critical systems, our responsibility grows accordingly. We must ensure that artificial intelligence continues to remain under meaningful human control. We must prevent its manipulation for purposes that threaten peace, security, or human dignity. And we must ensure that innovation proceeds hand in hand with responsibility. Switzerland believes that these objectives are not mutually exclusive. On the contrary, responsible governance strengthens innovation by building public trust. An excellent example of this philosophy is Apertus, Switzerland's open-source, multilingual large language model. Apertus represents an important milestone because it demonstrates that governments can actively contribute to the development of transparent, high-quality, and openly accessible AI systems. By embracing openness and collaboration, it offers an alternative model of innovation, one that encourages scientific cooperation while promoting accountability, transparency, and public benefit. Its significance extends beyond Switzerland itself. Open source models enable researchers, educators, and innovators around the world to build up and share knowledge. They encourage collaboration rather than fragmentation and demonstrate that technological leadership can coexist with openness and international cooperation. In many respects, Apertus embodies an idea that lies at the heart of today's discussion, that artificial intelligence should ultimately be developed not merely for commercial success, but for the benefit of humanity. This principle resonates strongly with the vision presented throughout Dr. Waslekar's book. He reminds us that discussions about AI should never become debates solely about technological capability. They must also remain conversations about values, responsibility, and the future we wish to build together. Technology cannot determine our future. Only human choices can do that. The questions before us is therefore not whether artificial intelligence will transform our society. It undoubtedly will. The real question is whether we will have the wisdom to guide the transformation in ways that strengthen human dignity, expand opportunity, and reinforce international cooperation. That is the challenge facing all of us, governments, scientists, businesses, and citizens alike. Ladies and gentlemen, the question of how we govern artificial intelligence may well prove to be as important as the technology itself. Throughout history, humanity has repeatedly demonstrated an extraordinary capacity to innovate. Our greater challenge has often been ensuring that innovation serves the common good. Artificial intelligence presents us with a similar test. While it promises immense benefits, it also compels us to rethink how the international community cooperates in addressing risks that transcend national borders. Some of these risks are already becoming apparent. Advanced AI systems have the potential to strengthen cybersecurity, improve emergency response, and enhance public services. Yet, the same technologies could also be exploited by malicious actors to develop sophisticated cyber attacks, spread large-scale disinformation, or assist in the development of biological and chemical weapons. These are not hypothetical concerns. They are issues that governments, scientists, and international organizations are discussing with increasing urgency. World leaders have recently emphasized that non-state actors must never be allowed to misuse artificial intelligence for purposes that threaten international peace and security. Preventing such misuse requires effective governance, international cooperation, and a shared commitment to responsible innovation. Importantly, this conversation must remain inclusive. The governance of artificial intelligence cannot and should not be determined by only a small number of countries, however technologically advanced they may be. AI will shape every society and every economy. Its rules must therefore be developed through a broad international dialogue that includes development and developing countries alike, as well as scientists, industry, civil society, and international organizations. This inclusive approach has long been one of the defining characteristics of Geneva. For generations, Geneva has served as a place where nations with different perspectives have come together to seek common ground. In a world that is becoming increasingly interconnected, yet increasingly fragmented, that tradition is more valuable than ever. Switzerland remains firmly committed to preserving and strengthening this multilateral spirit. It is therefore particularly fitting that the next Global AI Summit will take place in Geneva. Building upon the important work undertaken by India this year, we hope to create other opportunities for the international community to move beyond positions and towards solutions. Solutions that encourage innovation while ensuring that technological progress remains aligned with our shared human values. This is also one of the reasons why the partnership between Switzerland and India has become increasingly significant. Our two countries complement one another in remarkable ways. Switzerland has developed internationally recognized strength in scientific research, precision engineering, life sciences, and responsible technological innovation. India has demonstrated extraordinary capacity to deploy technology at scale, reaching hundreds of millions of people through ambitious digital public infrastructure and rapidly expanding innovation ecosystems. Together, these complementary strengths create enormous opportunities. Swiss innovations in areas such as the open source tool Apertus, AI-assisted drug discovery, advanced diagnostics, and brain-computer interfaces could benefit greatly from India's entrepreneurial dynamism, scientific talent, and capacity for large-scale implementation. At the same time, Switzerland has much to learn from India's practical experience in applying artificial intelligence to agriculture, public services, education, and financial inclusion. Innovation has always flourished through exchange. Knowledge grows when it is shared. Scientific progress accelerates when researchers collaborate across borders. I therefore hope that institutions such as the Sakal Media Group will continue to play an important role in strengthening exchanges between India and Swiss universities, research centers, entrepreneurs, journalists, and policymakers. Media organizations today do far more than report developments. They also help shape informed public debate and create bridges between societies. Such bridges will become increasingly important as artificial intelligence continues to evolve. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the great strengths of Dr. Waslekar's book is that it asks us to think beyond today's headlines. It reminds us that artificial intelligence is not the final technological revolution that humanity will face. Already, we are witnessing extraordinary changes in quantum technologies, biotechnology, synthetic biology, and other emerging fields whose full implications are yet to be explored and remain difficult to predict. Recently, Switzerland's Federal Councillor and Foreign Minister Ignazio Scassi drew attention to the importance of preparing for the governance challenges posed by quantum technologies. Scientists have similarly highlighted the profound opportunities and risks associated with advances in biotechnology. In many respects, the discussions we are having today about the artificial intelligence will establish principles that may guide the governance of these future technologies as well. The decisions we make now will therefore have consequences far beyond AI alone. We are, in effect, helping to write the first chapter of a broader framework for governing transformative technologies in the decades ahead. That makes today's event especially significant. Dr. Waslekar's appeal for an inclusive and an effective approach to managing the most advanced AI systems is therefore both timely and far-sighted. It recognizes that technological leadership and responsible governance are not opposing objectives. Rather, they are mutually reinforcing. Innovation flourishes most successfully when there is trust. Trust depends upon transparency. Transparency depends upon dialogue. And dialogue depends upon our willingness to listen as carefully as we speak. This philosophy has also characterized the long-standing partnership between the Strategic Foresight Group and Switzerland. Over many years, Strategic Foresight Group has collaborated closely with the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs, the Geneva Center for Security Policy, the Geneva Water Hub, and more recently, GESTA. Together, these partnerships have produced innovative diplomatic initiatives and important contributions to global public policy. Among them is the Blue Peace Initiative, which has demonstrated how diplomacy can transform shared natural resources from potential sources of conflict into opportunities for cooperation. It is an inspiring reminder that innovative thinking, sustained dialogue, and international partnership can produce practical solutions to some of the world's most complex challenges. This same spirit should guide our approach to artificial intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude my remarks, let us return to the central message of this remarkable book. Artificial intelligence is often discussed in absolutes. Some portray it as the solution to every challenge facing humanity. Others present it as an existential threat. Reality, as Dr. Waslekar reminds us, is considerably more nuanced. Artificial intelligence is neither a miracle nor a menace. It is a powerful human creation whose impact will ultimately depend upon human judgment, human values, and human responsibility. If we wish humanity to benefit fully from these extraordinary technologies without causing irreversible harm, we must first understand them in all their complexity. We must resist simplistic narratives. We must look beyond the excitement generated by rapid innovation. We must also look beyond the fears that inevitably accompany profound technological change. In other words, we must truly go beyond the hype. That is precisely what this book asks us to do. It encourages informed debate, rather than emotional reaction. It promotes thoughtful reflection rather than simplistic conclusions. And it reminds us that the future of artificial intelligence is not something that will simply happen to us. It's something that we will shape together. I warmly congratulate Dr. Sundeep Waslekar on this outstanding contribution to the global conversation on artificial intelligence. I also congratulate Sakal Publications and the Sakal Media Group for bringing this important work to such a wide audience. I have no doubt that this book will become essential reading not only for policymakers and diplomats, but also for business leaders, researchers, students, and all those who seek to understand one of the defining transformations of our time. May it inspire thoughtful dialogue, stronger international cooperation, and above all, a shared commitment to ensuring that artificial intelligence remains a force for peace, prosperity, and the common good of humanity. As the American professor Fei-Fei Li so aptly said, artificial intelligence is not a substitute for natural intelligence. It is a tool to amplify human creativity and ingenuity. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for those remarks. And ladies and gentlemen, Switzerland's engagement with AI governance reflects an important truth. No nation, however advanced, can navigate this transition alone. Moving on to our next segment, before we move on to any further conversations at the heart of this evening, we now come to a very special moment, the formal launch of Beyond the Hype, Many Realities of AI. This book invites us to move past noise and extremes and move towards a more thoughtful understanding of one of the defining technologies of our time. It is only fitting that we mark its launch in the presence of such a distinguished gathering. To join us for the official launch, may I invite on the stage Ambassador Pankaj Saran. A big round of applause for him. Requesting Consul General of Switzerland in Mumbai, Mr. Martin Mayer. May I request Mr. Sundeep Waslekar to join us on the stage. Ms. Janvi Pawar and Ms. Ilmaz Fateli. Requesting all the dignitaries to kindly join us on the stage for the launch. The moment we all have been eagerly waiting for is finally here, ladies and gentlemen, officially launching the book Beyond the Hype, Many Realities of AI. Requesting the dignitaries to kindly open the ribbon and unveil the book. You're presenting the Marathi and English copy of Beyond the Hype. A big round of applause, everybody. Can we all kindly pose for a group photo? Are you all excited to read this? Yes? Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And with this, we come to the central conversation of this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Beyond the Hype emerges from decades of work in strategic foresights, work that has taken its author across conflict zones, policy platforms, and the spaces where the future is often shaped before it is publicly named. Mr. Sundeep Waslekar, President of Strategic Foresights Group, is one of India's leading public intellectuals, someone who thinks not in headlines but in decades. This evening we hear from him not in lecture but in conversation. Joining him is Ms. Janvi Pawar, Director at AP Global and Sakal Media Group, who brings to this exchange a perspective shaped by media, education and global institutional engagement. She works at exactly the intersection this book explores, where ideas meet implementation and where strategy must ultimately answer to reality. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I welcome Mr. Sundeep Waslekar and Ms. Janvi Pawar on the stage for the next conversation. Over to you, Janvi.
Fantastic. Good evening, everyone. Very, very exciting evening and a lot of things to talk about today with Sir. So I'm going to delve right into it and get this started. So some of the things that we've been seeing in the news, right? Mythos has come out very recently, and it's created a lot of headlines for what it is. You predicted a model like this would come out a year ago. So what led you to that thought process, and can you walk us through that?
Well, thank you, Jahnavi. But before I answer your question, I would just like to recognize your colleague, Madhav Gokhale, the editor in the book publication division of Sakal. It's really his effort that's brought us here. Thank you, Madhav, wherever you are. Well, Mythos 5 is basically a cyber weapon. You can use it to defend major infrastructure like energy grids, airlines, even some aspects of military. But it can also be misused. It can be instrumental in launching major cyber attacks. Now, Mythos 5 is not the only cyber weapon in the market right now. GPT 5.5 cyber is very much like Mythos 5. GML 5.2 is also like Mythos 5. So there are at least 3 cyber weapons in the market right now, which are equally powerful. And there are some which are slightly less powerful. GML 5.2 is a Chinese cyber weapon. So why is Mythos then so much in the news? Because the National Security Advisor to the President of the United States one day woke up to find that Mythos had penetrated all of the classified systems of the US government. And so this was a cause of worry, and so he went to the president and to some members of the Senate, and the president decided to put some hold on Mythos 5. He has also put hold on GPT-6, which is going to be even stronger than GPT 5.5 cyber. So there is a whole lot in the market. In India, there is, a big storm came up after Mythos 5 was prevented or made inaccessible. And everybody started saying, we don't have access, there is discrimination. Those kinds of concerns were expressed. Now, first of all, if you want technology, you have other models in the market, like GPT 5.5, GML. So it's not a question of not having access to the technology. But the question that Indian system should ask is not how do we get access to Mythos 5, but how do we stop Mythos 5 from coming into the Indian market? Because it's a cyber weapon. And if it is moving around easily in the Indian market, in a year from now, you could have serious disaster. Your question was, how did I figure it out a year before that? So as Consul General mentioned, along with a Swiss ambassador, I was co-chairing for 3 years a process of dialogue between the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. And this started in the aftermath of the Ukraine war. And we were meeting regularly in Geneva. This was probably the only platform where Russians and Americans were meeting to discuss how to prevent the Ukraine war going into some kind of a nuclear war. And in the course of these conversations, it became clear that President Biden at that time and President Putin would not want to start a nuclear war on their own. But there are certain accidents which could start this war. And then we kind of concluded that one of the major accidents that could start the war would be the deployment of artificial intelligence in a particular dimension or particular aspect of NC3. And then I looked at that and I thought how this could happen. And then I walked on a pathway as to how AI could possibly lead to or trigger a nuclear war between the 5 permanent members of Security Council. So then it, so that's when, so it was probably end of 24 when I figured this out.
Wow, okay. When it comes to a lot of the AI summits that we've been seeing over the last couple of years, Paris did one, then we had one in Delhi. I'm not sure how many people here attended the one in Delhi, but it was one of the blockbuster conferences of the year, and now we have Geneva doing it next. What kind of a global position do you think India should go for when it comes to AI, apart from just hosting summits?
Well, for the Geneva summit, first of all, Switzerland has a big responsibility because all the summits so far were conceptually polarized. Bletchley Park, and there was a mini summit in South Korea, they focused on AI safety. Paris and Delhi summits mostly focused on AI innovation and AI impact. And so the AI community around the world is divided, it's polarized. And so one of the tasks that Switzerland will have, and Switzerland is a unique country to be able to deliver on this task because of their neutrality and their reputation for several decades and centuries as a neutral country, is to bring together all these camps and try to have some kind of an integrated approach in the interest of humanity. For India, and if you look at India's approach to AI, first of all, we must understand what is AI. As I was coming in for this event, a lot of people here told me, oh, I work on AI, I work on AI, I work on AI. Now, let me tell you, I don't use ChatGPT or Grok or equivalent because I don't consider it any major part of AI. It is AI, but it's not all that significant. ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, all these models. And in fact, some of the journals I write for, you are specifically prohibited from using any of these models while writing. So that's not exactly what, the major component. I mean, it is AI, but it's not the major part of AI. The major part of AI is, say, for example, NASA announced recently that they will use AI for organizing human settlements on the moon. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that AI is some kind of a machine that transports people to the moon and arranges their settlements there. What it means is that AI has, the NASA has millions and millions of photographs and images of different parts of the surface of the moon collected since 1960s. And the AI that we are not familiar with, computer vision AI, will scan all this input and provide specific recommendations that this is the square mile where there may be access to potential water. This is the square mile where there could be this kind of atmosphere. So it will basically analyze that, and it will shortlist, say, a few spots for NASA to create a settlement. Or let's say if you are looking for a solution to cancer. So recently, the King's College in London, they had a patient, a woman who had a breast cancer, and they couldn't really find an easy solution. So they used AI to find a solution to the breast cancer. Now, AI is not a doctor. So It is basically a machine that, or algorithm that analyzes data and patterns and predicts. And this King's College example of breast cancer is very, very relevant to understand how AI should be used. So this algorithm produced 12 possible solutions for this lady, including some medicines which have never been used in cancer before. So medicines which did a combination of non-cancer medicines. But these 12 medicines or 12 pathways, some could cure cancer like anything without using cancer medicine, but some could kill you also. So you have to have the help of a laboratory. It's not like you and I can go and, that a friend has a breast cancer. So this is one. So AI is really at one level, is problem solving using pattern recognition. It's not writing essays and legal cases. The second level, and this is the AI that is pursued by a big American and Chinese company. It's the AI for scientific discovery. If you talk to Sam Altman or if you talk to Elon or the Chinese counterparts, they think that the task of AI is discover new theories in physics, which is something they have not achieved, new kind of molecules in chemistry, new materials. That's what they are looking at. And their idea is that by discovering new theories of physics, new concepts of biology, they will slowly control science. And if they succeed in the next 5 or 10 years, the science of 21st century will be controlled by whoever is doing that. And the last, if you talk to the President of the United States or President of Russia or whoever the President is or the President of China, for them AI is primarily national security. That's the lens which they use to look at AI. India is so far looking at AI as a technology developed in US, which we should use to develop various kind of apps for the benefit of society here. AI as an instrument of scientific discovery, which is what is understood by Sam Altman and his equivalent, and especially the Chinese, is not even thought of. And AI as a dimension of national security, there is some awareness now, but that's again not thought of. So in January, Ambassador Saran mentioned we launched our AI report, and one of the fervent appeals I made is that one of the serious mistakes India is making is that our policy is made by IT industry and the domain ministry, the mighty. I think in India, the development of concepts, not the development of technology, should quickly move to National Security Council and the Parliament. In Brazil, a Brazilian diplomat was here some time back, in South Korea, in South Africa, parliaments are extremely heavily engaged in development of the concept of AI. I don't see any serious debate in the Indian parliament, maybe some reference here or there. For last 3 years, Brazilian parliament is debating AI day in and day out. The South Koreans have debated it for last 3 years, and they have come out with a law to govern AI. Why is our parliament missing? But before you can go to the parliament, the first stop is really National Security Council, because AI has a strong national security dimension. So that's why the title of this book is Many Realities. AI is not writing essays and emails. AI is scientific discovery. AI is national security, and AI is discovering patterns to solve the problems which you cannot normally solve.
Wonderful. I actually finished your book, I think, in less than 2 hours because I found it so gripping. And to me, what kind of also jumped out was that if you had to, for example, play the devil's advocate and say that these are some things that the public would say or certain sections of society could potentially criticize, what do you think those would be?
If I have to criticize the book, what would I say?
If you had to be the devil's advocate.
Yes, there is something wrong with this book. The year of publication and the subject are not matching. I have written it in 2026 and it's about AI. Actually, if I'm writing a book on AI, I should have written it in 2016. It's already too late to write about AI. And if I'm writing a book in 2026, I should only write about one aspect of AI, which is the neurosymbolic AI. Or I should write about quantum. Earlier, Martin mentioned quantum and neuroscience. Because going ahead, the world is going to be shaped by quantum, by synthetic biology, by neuroscience, and a combination of these things. What you call AI, the core of the AI, large language models, are passé. Large language models is the story of 2025, which got over with the Christmas of 2025. Now large language models are, it's an old story. Now the leading scientists are moving towards post-LLM era. Of course, they're not going to be completely wiped out. But every model that's being used is LLM plus or instead of LLM. And the world has started looking at quantum primarily. In fact, India also has, this is one area where India has taken a good step. India has launched a national quantum mission, which is really good, which is forward-looking. I appreciate that very much. But if I'm to write a book in 26, I should have written about quantum and neuroscience, and maybe limited the AI to neurosymbolic AI. But I wrote on AI because what happened last year, I went to something like several conferences, which were business conferences, just normal business executives, not just in India. In fact, less in India, in Latin America, in Dubai, Sachin Itkar is there, the great convener of many entrepreneurs enclave. I went to one with your grandfather. In fact, both of us went there to Dubai. I went, and everywhere, all these CEOs, all these executives, they were talking about AI. And when they mentioned AI, what they meant was ChatGPT. And I thought people just don't know what is AI. I mean, this is just one small dimension. So I thought I'll write something to just explain the basics. And even that I was reluctant, but I acknowledged Madhav Gokhale, your colleague, because he came and sat on my head several times and extracted a lunch from me and made me write this book.
Wonderful. Just for the audience, we will be having this conversation in two parts because we have a very special guest who Sir has brought on and will be joining us on Zoom. But we can have one question before we can open up that segment. We saw that the Pope came out with a lot of his thoughts on AI, and he wrote a very lengthy passage on that. Are there any other Indian or otherwise religious leaders who also have a stance on AI?
In India, I have very, very closely seen what the ministry which deals with this says, or what it says about AI. I have seen what the Ministry of External Affairs, where Ambassador Saran, what the current ministry, not, if he had been there today, it would have been a different narrative altogether, because he's a one man with a lot of depth. But I'm talking about the current ministry. I have heard what the scientists at IIT Madras are saying and IISc Bangalore. And I can say that the Indian with the most profound understanding of AI is the leader of the Gayatri Parivar. His name is Dr. Chinmay Pandya, and he has millions of Gayatri Parivar followers. And he is invited all over the world to interpret AI from the Hindu religious perspective. And so just as the Pope, of course, has a huge outreach, as presented from the biblical perspective, you have one leader, Dr. Chinmay Pandya, who and he really has very comprehensive understanding. And he's the most respected Indian around the world in AI. So I heard his speeches. And so I'm meeting him next week. And what I'm going to tell him is that he should provide not an alternative or counter, but he should provide another perspective which brings together not only the Hindu wisdom, but also Buddhist and Jain wisdom, and take a lead in bringing together the non-Abrahamic religions and provide a new perspective on AI, which can to a large extent go with what the Vatican is saying, but which would also say that Vatican doesn't have a monopoly on this. Because as so many other speakers said, Ambassador Saran, Ambassador Martin Meyer, that AI is not a monopoly of one country, one community, one company. AI has to be an endeavor of humanity. And there is one humanity, but there are many colors of humanity. And so it should not be just a Western narrative. I think we have people like Chinmay Pandey. There are also others in Buddhist Jain tradition, and I think they should all come together and provide another perspective. That might be a surprise for you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure how many of the audience members were aware of that, but that's fascinating to hear. I actually didn't know that this was the case. Very, very interesting to know that. I think maybe we can take a quick pause before we start the next segment, and we have the host introducing the next segment as well, and a very special guest who is waiting for us online. Sundeep sir, do you want to talk a little bit about him? Maybe give us a little experience.
He's waiting, then maybe I should.
I think he's just about to join in, but if you want to share a little bit about your experience with him and why we have brought him on today.
Jan Tallinn, who's joining you, is the. Oh, there he is. Can you hear me? Jan?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Very well, thank you.
Yeah, well, okay. I'll leave you in the good hands of Janvi Pawar. She's one of our most dynamic young entrepreneurs and media leaders. I shouldn't be here. It's between you and her.
I'm going to have
Great,
the host just quickly introduce. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Sundeep. A big round of applause for him, everybody. And thank you, Janvi, for that rich and thought-provoking exchange. The question raised around governance, society, and the future of human agency are precisely the question this book asks us to confront. Moving ahead, ladies and gentlemen, we now turn from the world of ideas to the world of building. If the previous conversation asked what we should think about AI, this one asks something equally urgent. What does AI look like from the inside, from the perspective of those shaping it? Jan Tallinn, ladies and gentlemen, who just joined us online, is a co-founder of Skype, which transformed global communication. He's also a co-founder of the Center for the Study of Existential Risk at Cambridge and the Future of Life Institute. Two institutions seriously engaged with the long-term implications of transformative technologies. He was also an early investor in AI well before much of the world began paying close attention to its consequences. He brings a rare combination of technological depth and philosophical seriousness to this conversation. Few people have engaged more directly with the tension this book explores between the speed and responsibility, innovation and governance, capability and conscience. So please, everybody, once again, let's put our hands together for Janvi Pawar in conversation with Jan Tallinn. Come on, everybody.
Hello, Mr. Tallinn. I hope you're doing well, and I'm audible
Thank
to
you
you.
very much. I am. Thanks for having me.
Can we have the video, please, on Zoom, so that the audience can also see him? Fantastic. So I'm going to have to look over here, unfortunately, because the camera's on this side. So my view is the audience, but we actually have a full house here tonight. Very, very exciting times. I'm going to start off with something that Sundeep sir had mentioned to me, that when you met him and Ilmas Fateli in 2014, you were talking about AI. You were talking about the opportunities of AI, but also the existential risks posed by AI. What made you look at that time so much into the future and think about AI and the dangers and the opportunities that it poses back then?
Yeah, thank you. So I think in 2007 or 8, I kind of stumbled upon the writings of a young man back then in California. His name is Eliezer Yudkowsky, and he was kind of making this case that, look, AI is probably going to be the biggest technology that humanity will ever invent. And after, I was just like looking for new challenges after Skype, so I found this topic like very attractive. And indeed, as I kind of looked closer into it, I found it wasn't like, Eliezer wasn't even like a first person to warn of the dangers. Like, turns out, like even like Alan Turing, like pretty much the inventor of computer science, he wrote in like 1956, if I, unless I'm mistaken, that look, eventually machines will be better decision makers than humans, and at that point we will be at the mercy of the machines unless we figure out how to keep them under control. And after Turing, there were other luminaries like Norbert Wiener and I.J. Good. I.J. Good famously in 1962 warned against so-called intelligence explosion, which means that he just observed that creating AI is an intellectual activity, which means that if we are creating something that is better at creating AI, we will necessarily kind of like lose control over this process because humans will no longer be in the loop. And he called it intelligence explosion. And now, if you can take a step back, it's not like really hard to understand. Look, there's a reason why we have human civilization running this planet, not a chimpanzee civilization. And so if we are going to create, if the scientists or like programmers, engineers are going to create something that is smarter than them, it is not like implausible at all that they will lose control over it. So that's kind of ultimately a very simple argument that convinced me back then. And the question really was like how far we are from that point. Back then it felt that we probably had time until like 2040s, but now it seems that we're not going to have that much time anymore.
Wow. And when it comes to, for example, India and the global south, we're seeing a lot of the countries in the global south as well using AI for sectors like education, agriculture, healthcare. What are some of the dangers that we need to be a little bit more aware of, as well as the opportunities here, do you think?
Yeah, I think the world generally seems to be kind of bifurcating into like three components, let's put it that way. America, then the US, China, and the rest of the world. So in some ways, like Europe and India are in the same situation currently, as witnessed by the US government disallowing access for the rest of the world that was just lifted yesterday, I think, to the most powerful models. So I do think that there are like three frontiers or three kind of categories of issues that like all countries will have. They will have the different degrees, but those categories are first access. Indeed, like there are like two gating functions that determine like who gets access to the most powerful AIs. One is the companies themselves. Like the companies do not have to publish the models. They can just keep using them internally. And second is, as we saw, is the governments, in particular US government and Chinese government, to the degree that the most powerful models are in these countries. So that's like the first question, like how actually how to get access to the models that are not kind of directly accessible to your government and your citizens. Second challenge is like job market issues, because I mean I'm an engineer and programmer, and I totally see how the job of programming is now changing really quickly. And so far it's been like wonderful. It's been like very kind of empowering. But I am in a different situation that like many like programmers. I mean, India is famous for like its like IT prowess, and like the changes are probably going to hit pretty hard the service sectors and export sectors in India. And the third and the most important category really is the control problem. Like again, as I mentioned, and as like all the luminaries earlier have predicted, that once you create something that is smarter than you, you're probably going to lose control over it. So the really question is how can entire world as a community, because that affects all the humans. Like how can we make sure that the company is creating those, and they're really like building, like they're not building, they are growing those entities. How can the rest of the world help them to keep them under control?
Right. When it comes to AI safety, I saw that in recent podcasts and interviews, you've touched a lot on that topic as well. You've also invested quite a bit in AI safety. Talk to me a little bit more about that. Where is that world heading? How do you feel about AI safety today? Are we really safe?
Yeah, so we're definitely not safe. I think there have been like kind of two schools of thought in AI safety in general. Like one is this let's solve this like from the first principles and ensure that if you are creating something that is smarter than us, just have like sort of like fundamental reasons why this can't harm us. And for example, Joshua Bengio, who is like the most cited computer scientist of all time, he is actually working on a thing called Scientist AI, where he has like a fundamental reason to expect why this system will not have agency, will not want its own things. And then like there's the other school of thought, which I would say like anthropic school of thought, which is that look, as we get closer to the frontier, as we get access to the more and more powerful systems, we also learn a lot, which means that we can put this like new discovered knowledge that we didn't know like 6 months ago, not to say like a decade ago, into use, into how to actually shape the frontier. So yeah, I like continued seeing like these two schools of thought in some ways in tension, but ultimately like having the same cooperative goal of ensuring that the future goes well.
Got it. We have a lot of students in the audience today. If you were a student today, what do you think you would be focusing on?
I mean, to the degree that you can get access, again, like you might not get access. Nobody except companies will get access to the most powerful models soon. Just like learn a lot, like how AI can complement you. In some ways, I do think that we are at this point sort of like golden age of AI, where they are clearly complementary to humans. They're not like competent enough to function on their own, to develop their own infrastructure and just like cut humans out of the loop. Although, yeah, companies are economically pressured to make sure that humans no longer will be needed, which is unfortunate. But on the other hand, there's still like basically need at this point for human management and ingenuity that complements the AI. And I think the combination can be like very powerful. I think we're going to see very interesting results. We're starting to see interesting results in mathematics and eventually like medicine, etc. So in some ways, be prepared that if you had like a lifelong plans for a career, that career probably will not be there, unfortunately. But as long as we are nimble and as long as we can keep the AI progress controllable, I think there's like a lot of opportunity.
Right. Something that Mr. Waslekar has written in his books as well is that civilizational issues often need civilizational solutions. What is your philosophy when you look at the future of technology and the way the world is moving right now?
Yeah, so I mean, I have like several sort of like principles I want to say, but I guess like one important principle is that the technology is not like automatically good, and I strongly oppose and protest people who say like, look, we always manage to end up well, and so it's like no matter what we do, like we'll just like muddle through, as they say. It's like I think a very good example of that is, I don't know how many of you have seen the Oppenheimer movie. Basically, there was a moment in 1945. 44, I think 45, where they had this challenge of, the Manhattan Project had this challenge of, will we actually survive the first nuclear detonation? Will it ignite the atmosphere? So like, I think this like moment demonstrates how it's important to think through rather than go ahead and see what happens. Because at that point, the Manhattan Project scientists indeed produced the first existential risk research report, which was called Report LA 602, where they actually did the proper calculations of what how much safety margin there is, and in this like first Trinity test, and they did calculations rather than just empirically seeing what happens. I think that's an important principle, that just like try to think ahead rather than just like just experimenting all your way to your death.
Are there any other books, podcasts, resources, or modern thinkers that come to your mind who are also championing the cause that you are?
Well, I have like a small website that I update every once in a while. It's called jan.info, my first name, .info. And yeah, I have like a list of, some list of books. I think one problem with books these days and movies is that it takes several years to make them. Which means that they're usually out of date when they come out. Like depending on, of course, like how kind of abstract they are. But if they kind of use examples, etc., it's very hard to kind of keep up because there are new examples come up now every week. So it's that is a challenge. But like I do think it's important to kind of keep abreast of the news. I also have lots of like lists to or like pointers to various podcasts and whatnot.
Coming to a slightly more positive side, are there any really interesting startups that you've been taking a look at, or young founders that you've met in the space who you think are doing some really interesting work and helping solve some incredible challenges?
Yeah, so because this like situation with AI is getting like so critical now, I have kind of distanced myself from kind of investment activities personally. So I have like a team of people at like metaplanet.com who are kind of looking at these like various startups. Although like there is like this issue that again, like if we do not stop kind of AI progress in the sense of just blindly rushing ahead, in some ways, like investing in human startups is now bet against AI, because what you're doing is like you're betting that in the next 10 to 15 years, and that's like what usually it takes for a startup to mature, AI will not kind of challenge the work that the startup is planning to do over the next decade, which is like again, it can be sensible to take that risk, but it's an additional risk that didn't exist when I started investing in startups.
Right. What keeps you up at night? That was actually one of my biggest questions when I was going through your research, that, you know, with so much information that you have, do you manage to sleep well at night?
Oh yeah, I have like my aura to prove that, that I sleep well. I mean, one thing is that I've been working on these topics so long that I've been kind of, in some ways, accustomed to it. And in like, I don't know, I don't want to sound like super morbid, but like I've had a great life. And like if it now all ends in the next few years, which it might not, I hope not, it's all right. But it's of course like really horrible for the next generation.
Yeah, well, we do have a lot of next gen actually in the audience today. We have a very, very interesting and diverse audience here. Anything else that you would like to share with us before your time with us is up? I know we have just about 3 minutes left, so I was just wondering, anything else that you would like for us to just know about AI and safety that we have not thought about before?
I mean, I don't know exactly what I thought about. But I do think that the most important fact to know is that AIs are not being built, they're being grown. And like, it's not, like, the way I put it is that there are like 3 frontiers where kind of unprecedented situations are being created on this planet, just like the first nuclear detonation created a like potentially dangerous and unprecedented situation on this planet. Like one of them is like during training, like we are like the actual capabilities are appearing during training, and we are kind of relying on the lack of competence to constrain those AIs during training. And second, the most dangerous frontier, I think, is like what's called internal deployment, when humans get access, the internal employees get access to AI, but also means that AI gets access to humans. And only the final frontier, which is like almost everybody's looking at, is like what happens after deployment. Like how do we distribute and how do we kind of how do we sort of deal with the consequences of having like potentially trillions of human level and beyond agents among us now. So like I think it's like, yeah, we'll just leave it like that it's not just a post-deployment thing that we need to worry about, but also like pre-deployment frontiers.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Tallon. I know it's quite early for you at the moment, but thank you for joining us today on behalf of both Sakar Media Group, AP Global, and the Swiss Consulate. It's been wonderful having a chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
May I please ask Sundeep Waslekar, sir, to perhaps come back on stage for a little while? Since sir is back, I thought we would just do maybe a last couple of questions, and then maybe we can have the audience also ask some questions to you, and then see where that can take us. But to pick up the last conversation that we had, we were talking about the Pope, and you were telling me about some very interesting developments on that side from the Indian and the Eastern religious world as well. Coming down to, for example, what you also mentioned earlier was India has become a little bit of an application economy, something that you've mentioned in your book as well. What do you think, therefore, India's IT sector or the private sector should be doing? We've seen that India's government launched a $12 billion fund last year for research, development, and innovation for AI. What are your thoughts? What do you think our North Star should be?
I think young entrepreneurs like you, and there are so many others, if they want to work in AI, they should have a bit of a futuristic outlook. And that means they should think of ideas and develop technologies for AI models which will not use data, which will use very little energy, and maybe which may not even use silicon. That's the direction in which the frontier of AI is moving. The most sophisticated AI model is by Google. It's called AutoML 0. It doesn't use data at all, or it uses very little data. So all these big data centers which are being created, they will not go waste, because there will be always LLMs and the routine AI which will be used. But if you are just building a new vision and you have a longer term pathway, think of developing AI which is not going to consume a lot of data. Then there is neurosymbolic AI, which doesn't involve using a lot of energy. So India has issues with energy. India has issues with water, which is very closely linked to the data centers. So I think our young entrepreneurs should really start looking in the direction of neurosymbolic AI and AutoML 0 kind of. Now you might say, is this all possible? Is it not frontier science? You know, the most advanced, besides Google and AutoML 0 and those kinds of models, the very big companies, one is in Switzerland, one is in South Korea. The one in Switzerland is called Final Spark, and this model doesn't use silicon. It's using some other material. And if you have investable surpluses and you want to become a trillionaire like Elon Musk, I would put my money in Final Spark. But you have to wait for 10 years before you start giving it. So why can't we think on those lines? One of the most sophisticated models globally is astromorph. It's done by Koreans, South Koreans. The average age of the team members who have developed this is 18. The team leader is 21. And the money the capital they invested was $3 million. Now, don't tell me there is no $3 million available in India. So, when you ask the question, I listen to you very carefully. You ask, what can the IT sector do? I would say, keep the IT sector out of AI. That is the disaster that India that has caused in the last 3 years. Is because IT sector is guiding the development of AI, we have not done much progress. That's why we don't have astromorph. Because, I mean, I'm sure India has very, very talented people. I mean, it's not just in Korea that 19-year-old and 20-year-old can make astromorph. We have a lot of talented people. I don't think we are missing out $3 million or $6 million. You know, that's like a small gift you give at the end of the wedding in many families. So, so there is no shortage of money. The final spark in Switzerland, it's again $5 million for $4 million, that kind of budget. So, you know, let's not talk about capital deficiency. I think we have a vision deficiency. And the vision deficiency is coming from our lack of understanding of what is IT and what is AI. They are two different things. IT is a platform. You need the digital public infrastructure to develop AI. But AI is different. And most Indian policymakers don't understand the difference between the two, and IT sector is very happy that they don't understand the difference. And that is a problem. So, which is why, if you really want, you know, I am quite confident that if you create proper policy environment, Indian entrepreneurs will move very fast, and India can become one of the, maybe you can't outbid China and US, but we can be in the same league as Korea and Switzerland. You can be one of the top 3-4 countries in the world by going in this direction. But for that, 3 rules. As I said in the beginning, get National Security Council involved as soon as possible in a very systematic way. Get the parliament involved in a very intensive way. And 3, have a very measured and nuanced approach to how much you want to involve IT. You know, we have created a services economy over the last 30 years, and there have been different parties and different governments in power. India now needs to move from services economy to creative economy. And if you want to move from services economy to creative economy, we have to take a philosophical view. And the philosophical view that we have to take and question, the basic question we have to ask is, do we look at India as a country that's very proud of something we did 2,500 years ago? Or do we look at India as a country that will make strong contribution to the people of India, strong contribution to the people of the world in the next 250 years? The choice is between building for next 250 years and taking pride in what happened 2,500 years ago. These are two different trajectories.
Very true. Last question, sir, before I open up the questions for the audience. What conclusion do you want the readers to walk away with once they finish your book? Yeah, what do you want them to leave to finish the book, and what do you want them to think? What do you want them to take away from that book?
Well, I don't want people to believe what I'm saying. I want people to question. I think if the book succeeds in making you question number of things that are happening around us, I would say the book has made some contribution. What has happened in India, we have stopped questioning. I'll tell you one story. There was one program like this in Mumbai, and the deputy governor of Reserve Bank was the speaker. And in the speech, he said, you know, in 1750, India had 25% of the global GDP as calculated by Angus Madison. So after the lecture, there was a tea, and I was having a tea with him, and a couple of CEOs were standing next to me. And I said, sir, how do you know that Angus Madison was right? Because there was no way to method to calculate GDP in 1750. So the governor said, deputy governor said, no, but Angus Madison said it. I said, but so what? Angus Madison said, don't you? I said, I don't want you to question Angus Madison, but we can definitely question his methodology. And before that, we have to know. So he said, no, how can you question Angus Madison? So I said, why can't you question Angus Madison? So there was a CEO standing next to me, not a young CEO like you, but unfortunately a seasoned one. He was having chai and samosa. And he said, how can you question the governor of Reserve Bank? So my aspiration from my readers is that they should start questioning. They should start questioning everything, but question in a constructive way. You don't necessarily have to find a solution. Makaran Deshpande is here, one of the greatest directors of the Marathi theatre. I love his plays. I go there not to find answers, because I see his play and at the end of it, I go back and I start questioning. And I think in India, all generations, we have to start questioning. Questioning is very good. Questioning doesn't mean you castigate, you criticize, you question. And that's what we have to learn. Then we will have Asteromorph. Then we will have Final Spark.
Fantastic. I think that was a wonderful answer by sir. I think let's take a couple of questions from the audience, if possible. Any hands in the air if you have any questions, then my team can come with the microphone. I think we have a gentleman over there on that side.
Good evening, all. Sir, Abasaheb Kale here from PDKSM Consulting. The race has already begun. On one side, we are talking, will human community service humanoids? On the other side, you mentioned energy requirement, water requirement. The perspectives are changing. World is already fighting. Supply chains are changing because of wars. You're already active in nuclear and all those things. Ultimately, this word in the room, AI, where are we going to settle? In next 10 years, you said 150 years, 200 years, but in next 10 years, 20 years, where exactly we are going to settle? In which direction?
I used to run a think tank called Strategic Foresight Group. I dismantled it 5 years ago. One, because I believe you should always destroy when you are, at the height, not when you are going down. But there was a bigger reason. And the bigger reason was that I realized that the Strategic Foresight Group and all other think tanks, they are looking at geopolitics as the anchor concept of understanding the world. And I realized we have now entered, as humanity, the post-geopolitical world. And I didn't want to be caught up into thinking in geopolitical terms, so which is why I got out of it. Now, to answer your question, I'm actually trying to find answer to your question as to where the world will be. And for that, I am studying two sets of subjects. One is anthropology and archaeology and philosophy combination. And the second is neuroscience and psychology combination. And with the first combination, I'm trying to see what happened in the history of humanity before 3000 BC, because what happened after 3000 BC is clear, but a lot of interesting things happened before. And with the other combination, I'm trying to see what will happen in the next 10 years. So once I have answers from that, I may be able to give you a much better answer to your question. But all I would say is that you are asked a cardinal question. Where we will stand in next 10 years is really a cardinal question. I'm not even sure that that we will have a very stable society globally, or like we might have major wars, we might have a major world war, We might have a major nuclear world war, in which case you don't even know what happens to life. Or we might make amazing breakthroughs. But there is one thing where humans have not been able to make a breakthrough for last 5,000 years, starting from 3000 AD to now. We have made a lot of technological breakthroughs, we have made a lot of scientific breakthroughs, but we have not been able to make a breakthrough in challenging the concept of power. For 5,000 years, we are holding on to the concept of power. We have not made a breakthrough in challenging the concept of ego, profit, selfishness. 5,000 years, the world is run on these concepts. And so therefore, I feel that while scientifically we are advanced, psychologically and mentally, we are frozen to 3000 BC. So as a humanity, as a human race, we are very backward. We are frozen 3000 BC. So I'm going to study psychology, neuroscience, and some of this combination to see how to make a breakthrough. If I succeed, I will be very happy.
Yeah.
If I don't, I will still keep trying.
If you succeed, sir, then we have another book launch right here that hopefully Sakar will publish. Can we take one more question and then maybe we can... Yeah, I'm not sure.
Good evening, sir. This is Chirag Jain. I'm a third-year law student, sir.
Yeah.
So my question is, do you think that AI is a trap? Because what I feel is, since time, it has been destroying the creative thinking of students as well as, you can say, learned advocates. What we do is we've stopped researching on that level, which we used to earlier. And the second question on the board is, do you think, sir, AI will ever understand emotions or will it just stimulate empathy? These are the two questions from my side, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, the chairman of Sakal Group, Mr. Pratap Pawar, your grandfather, my good friend, he has developed some AI models to predict weather, composition of soil, and other aspects which affect agriculture. And with his efforts, the agricultural productivity in Baramati area has increased almost 30-35%. Now, this is before the LLMs came into picture. So, AI, when you say AI is a trap, this kind of AI is not a trap. But you are not even thinking it's an AI because this happened much before the LLMs. In 2020, when there was COVID, there was a small company in Toronto called Blue Dot or something, and they predicted how COVID will spread, and they warned all their clients, and so none of them ever got affected by. And this was using AI, but that's not a LLM AI. So first of all, you have to understand what is AI. This AI, what is used in agriculture, in health, it is single domain AI or narrow AI, which has existed before. And that can be very helpful. It doesn't even require much data and it doesn't even require much energy. Whether AI will but if you want to know more, you buy the book. Okay. Now, whether AI will acquire emotions, I don't think so, personally. But this is a subject under tremendous study, reflection. In California, this is the most important subject, the relationship between AI and consciousness. And there are people on all sides of debate. I must tell you something very interesting. All the top people in AI, like, you know, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, all of them, Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, most of the founders of AI companies, the big AI companies in the US, I don't know much about China, are not, I mean, half of them are not engineers at all. They are philosophers and sociologists. The biggest AI big daddy, even bigger than Musk and others, is Peter Thiel, who makes Trump's policies. So basically, a lot of people in India who have a geopolitical view of the world think that Trump wakes up in the morning and he goes crazy and he thinks of attacking someone or doing this. No, Trump has a team which advises him, which is run by Peter Thiel, and it's very systematic. Peter Thiel is the founder of a lot of the AI companies like Jan Tallinn. Alex Karp, his right-hand man, who's very dangerous. These all guys are not philosophers. People like Jan Tallinn and Elon Musk, they started as engineers, but after setting up successful companies, they have now become philosophers. Elon, you talk to him, he is only talking about export of consciousness or the future of consciousness. That's his focus. He's not interested. If you ask him, how to build a company or this or that, he's not interested. So basically the question that you raised about whether AI will become emotional is very closely linked to whether AI will become conscious. That's what it is. Whether AI will become sentinel. These are very closely linked. And these are the questions which are on the top end of the debate that's taking place in the AI community. Anybody who thinks that they are good engineer and they will create a big AI company are mistaken. A good engineer is going to become a second-rate, is going to be a founder of a second-rate AI company. Only a good philosopher and a good sociologist and who knows how to use good engineers, he will become the leader of a top AI company.
Wow. I think that was a fantastic answer, sir. Thank you so much for your time and for coming here today and, of course, launching the book with us. It's an honor to have you, actually. And for all your mentorship as well. I think having a chat with you and having conversations with you is some of the best parts of my career day and my work day. And thank you so much for that. And a big thank you to the audience as well for being here today. I think we have some very interesting guests, and the audience as well has been so patient, which I think is very, very important.
And thank you, Jahnavi. You made it possible for us to come together. It's totally to your credit, which is why I'm saying this older generation, whether from IT or here or there, we should forget about them. The future is in your hands and it's for you to shape. And I'm sure Sakal will perhaps have a formal vote of thanks, but from my side, I really want to thank Martin and the Swiss consulate and Ambassador Saran. Ambassador Saran is extremely busy. He was in Moscow previous day. I don't know where else the day before. And for him to come to Mumbai, it's a great treat, Pankaj, to have you here. Thank you. And thank you, Martin and the consulate and your entire team.
Thank you so much.
Discussion. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the close of this remarkable evening. When you entered this room, you entered a conversation about the future. What I hope you now leave with is not certainly, but something more valuable, a sharper set of questions. So thank you so much once again, everyone. The Consul General of Switzerland in Mumbai, Mr. Sundeep Waslekar, and Jan Tallinn, thank you so much for being a part of this event. Ambassador Mr. Pankaj Saran, sir, thank you so much for being with us today. With this, ladies and gentlemen, Anchor Mayuri Malankar signing off. Have a wonderful evening ahead.